Welcome back to the Competitive Greatness Podcast. I'm here with my good friend, coach, trainer, video coordinator, jack of all trades for the Charlotte Hornets, Jordan Surenkamp. So Jordan, a little background of how we met. Jordan went to Wabash from Mooresville, Indiana originally, helped us out this summer, worked with a ton of our athletes, did a really good job. I'm kind of a firm believer in, on and off the court, different things, but pretty quickly from the moment we sat down and talked originally about potentially working together, had a feeling that it was going to be a really good relationship, that whatever that led to from a training standpoint was kind of besides the point, that there would be a lot of things that we could kind of work on together and potentially build that relationship down the road. So he's got a really good opportunity here in Charlotte. We're here in Charlotte. I thought of all the people to have our first interview with on the podcast, Jordan would be a good one, so we'll try to keep it short, but I don't know if I missed anything. You want to say anything else about yourself?
No, just from a small town in Indiana, played Division III basketball, and basketball has always kind of been my love and passion, and knew that's what I wanted to do when I graduated, and was lucky enough to work kids camps and stuff in the summer when I was in college, and made a lot of really good connections that way, and was lucky enough to get the opportunity to go down and be a graduate assistant at the University of South Alabama with Matthew Graves, who was on Brad Stevens' staff there at Butler. Got promoted within there, so was there for 4 years, and then obviously had a really good opportunity this past year in Brooklyn with the Brooklyn Nets and their G League affiliate in Long Island. So kind of been all over the place, but that's part of the nature of the beast when you're in coaching. But just really happy to be here in Charlotte with a great organization and look forward to this coming year and season.
Absolutely. And we talk about that all the time. You've got opportunities that kind of come your way. I know we talk about developing way ahead of time to prepare for it. And so he's, again, a very good example of that and has really relished in those opportunities. So, again, keep it short. We'll probably develop some of these interview questions over the course of what we do with some of these guests. But I want to start with, we're in coaching, we're in development. We talk a lot about self-development stuff on and off the court, but it all is very encompassing within the same thing. Basketball in any sport, I think, really helps you with your development as a person. So as a coach and trainer, what do you consider to be kind of the most important pieces, or what's your philosophy as far as development goes? That can be on the floor, off the floor. What are kind of 3 to 4 of the most important things that you need as part of a development program?
Sure. And I think the most important thing, and it's kind of my philosophy in general, is, it's about the player. And that's the most important thing. It's always going to be about the player. My personal philosophy, and I call it my why. Why do I do what I do? And it's to, positively empower and kind of have that positive influence on people so that they can, realize their own goals and achieve them. So that they can believe in themselves. And I know, growing up with the support system I have, to have someone that believes in you and is willing to work with you every day to, get to where you want to be, it's really empowering, and it's something that really, really can help you in life, not just basketball. So that's kind of my philosophy on why I do it. I do it for others, to help others, and I get excited when others achieve their goals, and that's kind of my primary focus. From more of a development, standpoint, there are kind of 3 main things I look at in that term. And I think the first one is understanding, the second one is love, and the third one is just being involved and being consistent. So understanding from the fact that when you're a player or you're a coach, being able to understand who you are as a player and understand who you are as a coach, but also understand where you want to be. Where you see yourself, what are your goals, what are your ambitions, what drives you every single day. So that's one. I think love is the second one, and this is, specific for coaches. You've got to love what you do, but you also got to love your players. And I think, developing relationship, and we talked a lot about it this summer, to be able to establish trust and to be able to, build a foundation with players where they respect you, they trust you, they believe in you, so that when you guys are on the floor, you're working hand in hand. I think that's an extremely important part of it. So you have to love your players, and you have to love the process of doing it. The last one is just being involved and being consistent. Becoming great isn't something that's just going to happen overnight. You can't just do it 1 or 2 days a week or for a couple hours a day. It's got to be something that you really invest time in. I've read a couple books that say, becoming an expert in something, you need to do it for 10,000 hours. So it's something that has to be consistent. It has to be something that you do every day. But then also the getting involved standpoint, you can't just stand on the sideline as a development coach and try and coach your player. You got to be out there with them, working with them, sweating with them, and really showing that you're invested in them and kind of what they're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely. I love that, getting involved and being invested and showing. We do a lot of stuff, obviously, that, if I'm not going to do it myself, or if I'm not going to practice what I preach, why are you going to have somebody else do that?
Yep,
So
absolutely.
Along those same lines, and you had some really good points there. The question we get asked a lot, when you're talking about goals or when you're talking about athletes and how they can develop and what they're trying to do long term, again, both as people and as athletes.
Right.
A lot of times we get the question, like as a basketball player, coach, I'm trying to get a scholarship, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, I'm trying to make my varsity team. How do I stand out? How do I differentiate myself from the competition, or how do I get to that next level? And again, to me, that's, especially from a recruitment standpoint, how do you differentiate yourself? How
Sure.
do you get to that spot? What advice would you give an athlete, or really anybody that's trying to differentiate themselves or set themselves apart
Right.
from their competition?
Yep. And in my experiences from a player, all the way through college, coaching at the college level and even out at the professional level, that's a question that you come across, pretty consistently when you talk to people. And I think the biggest thing, and there's a lot of smaller things that derive from that, but at the end of the day, you got to be yourself, because there's only one you. So if you want to stand out, be yourself. Right? The moment you start to try and become someone you're not, or try and become someone else, is the moment you lose who you are, and that's the biggest thing in not standing out. Aside from that, I've always been a big believer of raising energy levels in the room. I was taught from an early age, Brad Stevens talked a lot about it. When you walk into a room, you're doing one of three things. You're either raising the energy level of that room, you're keeping it the same to where you're not noticed at all, or you're lowering it. And what you want to do every single day and in every situation is raise the energy level in the room, whether that's bringing optimism. Maybe it's been a long road trip and you have to come back and you got to practice the next day and you're exhausted, but you got to get your players up. It's got to be a good day of practice. You got to get your fellow coaches up, the video guys, all that stuff. So raising the energy level in the room in a positive standpoint, it's not a look at me type of thing. It's a people start to feel a little bit better when you're around, and just that kind of empowerment kind of helps motivate others, and it kind of allows people to feed off that. So I think raising the energy level in any room you go into. I've read a book, The Energy Bus. You can't be an energy vampire. You can't suck energy levels out of the room. You want to be around. You want people to, be around you when you're there. The other one is, it's really cliche, but it's like embrace failure.
Oh, yeah.
Right? In every aspect of life, you're going to fail at something. I've failed numerous times in my career already, wishing I would have done things maybe a little bit different or a little bit better. But you've got to understand that everything's a learning experience, and keeping that positive mindset regardless of what you're going through, what situation may arise, and kind of how you handle it. Always look at it as a learning experience, as a growing experience, and making sure that as you move forward, if you made a mistake, not to make the same mistake twice. So understanding that failure is a part of life, and understanding that anybody who's had any type of success in this world in any platform has at some point embraced some type of failure. Right? You're not going to go through life flawless. We're all human. We all make mistakes, but it's how you handle those mistakes that really benefit you and can really help you kind of jump forward into the next kind of facet or step of your life, if you will. Two other ones that are really big for me is do it because you love it, like you have a passion for it. Yeah. There are a lot of people that do things every day, that they may not necessarily love. They just do it because they have to. And I've been a firm believer, and that's why I wanted to get into basketball, is I just couldn't see myself doing anything else. Long hours of coaching, it's tiring. You understand how it is with all the travel and everything, but yeah. I've never worked a day in my life, not once. So just being able to understand that, I get to wake up every day and do what I love and do what I'm passionate about really motivates me. Right. So if you want to stand out, you've got to do something you love, because if you don't truly love it, you're really never going to give your full all to it. Absolutely. And then the last thing, be about other people. If you're always about yourself and you always are just thinking about what's my next move, what can I do better, like things like that, you're never going to, I think, honestly, live a fully fulfilled life. Right. I think to fully fulfill your life, you have to live your life for other people. Yeah. And it goes back to my why and why I do it. empowering other people, seeing them achieve their goals. But even from like a kid who's trying to make a varsity team, what can I do at practice today? What can I do at tryouts today to make my teammates better? As a coach, that's stuff that is extremely important and stuff that sticks out. And I think if you live all facets of your life, for other people, that in itself helps you stand out.
Absolutely. Those are all great. And I think you and I have talked about mentors we've had, and I think a lot of the things that we have brought into our development programs or brought into what we bring to the table to different athletes and different people encompass those things and encompass things that we've seen from coaches, other trainers, mentors of ours that, hey, I really like what he did. I'm going to use that.
Yep.
Or, hey, I didn't really like how that situation was handled. I'm not going to use that. You mentioned Brad Stevens. I'm sure you've had a million different people in your life that have kind of helped shape your philosophy and those different things that you talk about. What is, if you could pick one, could be anybody, could be a coach, could be somebody that's been involved in your life, whoever it may be, what's the one greatest piece of advice or the greatest piece of coaching that you ever received? And it's tough. I've had a hard time thinking about it myself, but if you could pick one, what's one piece of advice or piece of coaching that's made a really big impact on you?
I can give you two.
Okay.
I think I can give you two. I don't know if I can just give you one. That's hard.
Two's fine.
And I've been I've been $2 for $1. I've been extremely lucky in my short coaching career to have been around people at South Alabama like Coach Graves, Coach Morris, Coach Archie, Coach Williamson, all those guys, and even last year in Long Island and Brooklyn and now here in Charlotte. Like the amount of mentors I have, and even people that I haven't necessarily coached with, but we're in the same career and we talk all the time. The amount of mentors I have is unbelievable, and they're all great people, and it's without them and their advice and their support, I would not be where I am today.
Right.
And I owe them everything, in terms of my career and where I'm at. I can't specifically say one person said this or another person said that, but the one reason I do think I've been lucky to have all these different mentors is they all kind of consistently have the same message.
Yeah.
You find it really interesting. A lot of this, the guys who do things the right way and do it for the right reasons, you find a lot of similarities and a lot of consistencies between all of them. And I've been very lucky to work in, multiple organizations and universities that, all of the values, while they may be different on paper, at the end of the day, they all kind of align with the same thing. Right. The first one and the best piece of advice I've gotten, and it is probably a quote that a lot of you guys have heard, as a coach, you touch more lives in a single day than some people will in an entire year.
Yeah.
So why are you doing what you're doing? You're doing it to help people. And so, you got to wake up every day, and I've even touched on it in some of your earlier questions, just having a passion and a drive to help others and do it for other people. At the end of the day, that's what's the most important. To see someone else achieve their goals and the excitement that they have and all of that, it's you can't put it into words, it's priceless. So I think that's the biggest thing is you do impact people every day, living your life every day so that you can help others and you can show them the right way to live theirs. Because at the end of the day, it's about helping other people. And the second one, again, pretty cliche, but it's very real and very true, especially in the coaching profession, is remaining uncomfortable and always learning.
Absolutely.
So the moment you get comfortable in this profession or the moment you think you know everything, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
So it's continuing to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, continuing to learn and grow. We joked about it a little bit earlier, but it's something I'm doing right now. I'm actually on a little bit of a social media cleanse.
Yep.
I do have my Twitter for professional reasons, but Instagram, Facebook, all those other social media pages I've actually eliminated from my life right now.
Right.
And I did that with the understanding that now with that extra time, I do feel like as a society we do grasp a lot onto social media in our spare time. The extra time I'm getting now, I'm reading books, I'm watching more film, I'm calling people and asking questions. And, it seems really simple, it's just Instagram, it's just Facebook. But if you think about how much you're on it, being able to take that additional time and use it towards, like I said, reading and growing in that respect. I love reading books. Watching more film from a personal standpoint so that I can better understand the game so that I can help our players or, help the coaches as much as I can. And then just like calling people, calling family, calling friends, texting them, just finding other ways to stay in communication with them instead of just looking at their pictures on social media. But just continuing to grow and continuing to learn and putting yourself in uncomfortable situations every day, and understanding that you're not going to know everything, and you shouldn't. Obviously your end goal is to, but you'll never feel like you really get to that point if you're about a growth mindset and you're about development and you're about continuing to try and become the best version of yourself. Because at the end of the day, being the best version of yourself allows you to help others in the best way possible.
Absolutely.
And I think that's probably the best advice I've been given are those two things. I think they coincide with one another.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think that getting uncomfortable, obviously stuff like taking social media out, all of that, I think in order to be truly great at whatever it is that you do, you have to fail like you talked about earlier. You have to be uncomfortable. You have to put yourself in situations that you're not familiar with so you can grow, screw some things up, learn how to do it better. Something we've always believed in. I think that's really important, so it's a great point to make. And right along that wavelength, the last thing I'll ask you, obviously, Competitive Greatness is the name of the podcast. It's the name of my company. It's the reason that I started doing all the things that I've been doing.
Yep.
A lot of thought went into that name, probably more so than people would even realize.
Sure. Yeah.
But greatness to me is something that is very individually defined and individually driven. And I think there's varying degrees of greatness. I think truly each person can only define how they can be great or what greatness looks like to them. For you, how would you define greatness?
That's a deep question. No, I think you hit it dead on the nose. And I think, for some people it's one thing, for others it's different, and that's how it should be. There's not one definition of, greatness. I guess if you look up in the dictionary, you could probably find one, but that's not truly what it is or what it means. I think my biggest thing, and again, for other people it could be completely different, but from my personal opinion, greatness to me isn't about how much money you make or how much wealth you have or how many awards you've won or how many games you've won as a head coach. One day if I'm lucky enough to, become a head coach at any level or in any capacity, I won't judge my success and failure off of, how many games I've won. I think greatness to me is finding a way to consistently, every single day, bring about and be the best version of yourself, whatever that is. And what I may think the best version of myself is and what the best version of yourself is could be completely different, and that's okay. That's what makes it great. No doubt. Just being the best version of yourself and always trying to put your best foot forward and always trying to work your hardest and grow and learn and do all of that. And I think that's, from a personal standpoint, I think that's what greatness is. You need to figure out, who you are, what you want to become, and how you can do that, and then take the steps every single day to be the best version of yourself so that you can get to that point. And then I think from a generic standpoint, not from a individualized standpoint, I think you can also define greatness as what you've done for other people in life. Right. I've heard the story, success isn't defined by what you've done as a person, but how many people you've helped in your lifetime and how many people you've been able to impact positively. Right. And I think at the end of the day, if you can, find ways to help others every single day, I think that's a really, really good step in becoming great. And we go back to my mentors, and one of them that I followed from Long Island here to Charlotte, Ron Norred, has been an unbelievable mentor for me the last couple of years. And I've known Ron for probably 10 years. But just, I think he's an unbelievable example of how you do that on a daily basis. Right. And there's a reason he's in the position he is now because of that. He does things the right way. He genuinely loves and cares about other people. And at the end of the day, that's what's the most important. So I think being the best version of yourself every day and finding what you can do for other people and see how you can help them grow and develop is probably the most important things in the ways I define greatness.
Absolutely. I think that's really powerful, and I think that, for what it's worth, I know you know this, and we've talked about this, the reason we named the company Competitive Greatness was because we're trying to help athletes be at their best when their best is needed, preparing for those opportunities. And really, it's tattooed on my chest. I say it all the time. Yep. You'll know you're really getting somewhere with somebody when they know that your best is needed all the time. Sure. You should be the best version of yourself all the time, trying to get that 1% better every day, improve every day, get outside that comfort zone. And again, for what it's worth, that's why I was excited about having you be kind of the first interview. I think you embody that. I think that a lot of the things that you do are for the right reasons, and I have no doubt it's going to continue to grow for you, and you're going to continue to impact people. I know you've impacted me. My brother, a lot of the athletes you got to work with for a short amount of time.
Sure.
And I know our friendship and relationship will grow as we kind of both grow our careers. So I just want to thank you for sure for being that type of person and for being one of the kind of the cogs in that system, because as you know, there's not enough people doing it, and I think the more that we can surround ourselves with people like that, the better off everybody's going to be and the more people we can impact. So I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate seeing you.
No doubt, man. It's been good.
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck with everything.
Yeah.
Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next week.